Have you ever wondered which grief is the worst? Well, I'm going to give you some advice from David Kessler, and he says, your loss is the worst loss. And what we mean by that is don't compare grief. Don't compare the loss of your husband with Sally down the road. Don't compare your loss of your husband with somebody else's cat. Don't compare the loss of your husband or wife with somebody else's loss of a child. Every single person has their unique grief journey, and it doesn't benefit anyone from a hierarchy of grief of whose is worst. I myself cannot imagine the loss of a child, but I know what it feels like to lose my husband, my mother, my father, my sister, a pet, a job, a divorce, all of those. That's a lot of grief, and they were all very different from one another, completely different. And that's my own grief. And so can you imagine how different a grief is with somebody else who may have had a similar loss, but their relationship would be different. The person that they lost were different. The circumstances of the death may be different. So many different things that mean that you're comparing apples and oranges. And so I would really urge you to accept that your grief is your grief. Your loss is the worst loss, no matter what anybody else's loss is. Their loss is their worst loss as well. And so don't compare griefs. Don't think of a hierarchy of grief. Just deal with your own grief as you can on your own timeline. And remember, your loss is the worst loss.